During the fall of 2016, the Indiana Office of Tourism Development celebrated our state's 200th anniversary with a torch relay. The Indiana Bicentennial Torch Relay connected all 92 counties of our state by a route that was some 3,200 miles long. More than 2,200 Hoosiers carried a torch, passing the flame from person to person. This film serves to memorialize the Indiana Bicentennial Torch Relay and preserve its legacy for generations to come.
Well, the idea of the torch relay came from the tourism department, and they brought it to the Bicentennial Commission and presented the idea, and so they really have carried that whole organizational part of it.
Years ago, when I came into this position, I was asked to contribute to some of the big ideas that were at their fledgling stages and to bring some new ones to the conversation with the Bicentennial Commission. And so I actually took a couple proposals to the Bicentennial Commission, one of which was what we have today, the Indiana Bicentennial Torch Relay.
This flame will travel 3,200 miles.
Our goal was to make sure every Hoosier felt like they could play a part. We didn't want to leave out any segment of our population, any age, no group. We wanted everybody to feel involved. And to see this has been really wonderful, to see all the different types of Hoosiers who have carried the torch relay.
In our efforts to create something that would really engage as many Hoosiers as we possibly could, all 6.6 million of them, if they chose to be a part of it, we knew it had to be something that was far-reaching, and the idea of the torch relay seemed to fit that bill. It had the potential to engage more Hoosiers, actually within the state as well as outside the state, than we've ever done before. So it was really an exciting opportunity to put it together.
The torch route itself was developed in phases. The first phase of it came to fruition in 2014 through many hours, from what I'm being told, over 400 hours of time spent by multiple groups and state agencies in planning. The idea, they knew where they wanted to start and where they wanted to finish and about how many days we could support making this happen.
The county coordinators in each county for the Bicentennial were asked about things that they wanted us to see or go by. And so we tried to plot all that out, and then to help verify whether things were historically significant or make sure that we go by things that may not have been provided to us but that were significant, whether it was something that happened back in 1816 or more current, but there were things that we should be definitely passing by while we planned out the trip. So we tried to gather everything, as much of Indiana as we could, and make sure that we hit those significant sites in each county.
It was very much a collaborative process. Now you see in the torch relay the great Hoosier pride and the tremendous spirit that is passing from community to community. Folks are taking great pride in the impact that they've had on this incredible initiative, and it enables people from our state, many of them, to say that they had some part in making history by establishing this route.
The variety has been stunning. I think each community really took this very seriously. To see the pride that all the torchbearers have has been inspirational, but to see that it's gone down a roller coaster and a tractor and a horse and people running with it, all the different variations has been really fun to see.
The most far-reaching single project during Indiana's Bicentennial was several years in the making and conceived, planned, and orchestrated by the Indiana Office of Tourism Development. Mark Newman, the office's director, was the architect behind the relay, and Noel Sidlick was charged with bringing it to life.
Prior to 2013, as a just conceptual idea, can we do this? Does it make sense? Who wants to get involved? A lot of 2014 was spent on the route and budgeting and making sure that it was going to be a good project for the state in regards to celebration of the Bicentennial, as well as a tourism project. And then the next 2 years were spent finishing up the operations and making sure the event would actually happen. Once we got the buy-in of the state from a perspective of wanting to support it financially, as well as the Bicentennial Commission promoting it as one of their signature projects, then it really started to grow. And that was the route formation and spending time determining how far are we going to travel and how many people are we going to need. My first job was going to all of the counties, meeting the county coordinators, going to the communities, answering their questions, seeing them face to face, working with the Bicentennial Commission staff to make sure we had county coordinators or torch relay coordinators in every community, because they played such a critical role in making this happen. And getting the nominations done and the torchbearers collected and selected was definitely a big project and process. There was a lot of people that had to be involved with that. And once we got past the torchbearer piece and the announcement in early June, the summer was really just spent getting the rest of the route operations plans together and making sure that the counties knew what they were doing, that they had their torchbearers assigned and that people had their uniforms. And we went on the road and it was, let's go. Everybody ready?
Indiana's first state capital was at Corydon, near the Ohio River. The torch journey began here on a warm September 9th morning.
Corydon had their community and the Harrison County coordinators did a great job working with the tourism office and the Bicentennial Commission folks to plan something that would really highlight the historical nature, utilizing the history of Indiana as a jumping off point for the relay.
Hoosiers settled along the Ohio River in southern Indiana. And so the capital, located at Corydon in 1816, was a good choice. It was in the middle of where people lived.
In Corydon, of course, we started at the old Capitol, which is where the delegates to the Constitutional Convention met in 1816 to start creating the entire process of statehood.
But the celebration in Corydon, everything from using flint rocks and to start the fire to be able to get the flame going, and just the choirs and the folks that they had perform, people carrying flags that were specific to 1816 and then the years just past that as the state became recognized officially, and really capturing the history of that area, the old state capitol, and really pull all that together was very cool.
Former First Lady Judy O'Bannon was the first person to take hold of the torch and take that first step, and it was a giant step on this whole endeavor.
Judy O'Bannon, who's a longtime resident of Harrison County, served as our first torchbearer, who is definitely one of our storied Hoosiers here from Indiana. She really was tremendous.
I think it is a uniter. It's got all the symbolism you need for people to rally around it. A flame from the beginning of time. People have used torch flames to light things up, to celebrate, to signify light and enlightenment and purity and all that. It has human beings putting their hand on that, carrying that same torch, hand to hand, sharing it. It unites the state, that people feel part of it. They want to feel part. I carried the torch.
After Corydon, the torch began what would ultimately be a 3,226-mile journey in early September. The route planners made sure to connect the relay to several Hoosier historical sites, structures, and places of natural beauty.
There's so much history, and it's actually fascinating. Some people think that Indiana's flat and boring. That's simply not true. There's all sorts of fascinating things in Indiana's history.
One of the things that was done when we developed the route as a whole was really to make sure that we did go to, buy, or in some way incorporate the state historic sites that are actually already established.
There's small towns and hidden treasures across the state. It's fascinating to find these little tiny snippets of Indiana history lost but hidden away somewhere. And so it's always fun to kind of, we used to say, wander Indiana and see what's out in the state across so much of this vast land.
And those are places like New Harmony, Indiana, but also places like T.C. Steele's homestead and where he painted in Brown County. And there are a number of other specific locations that fall within that state historic site realm of places, and we were sure to get to those locations. The other reason or importance of this from a historical standpoint is those are also very important to our state tourism. And so as a project of the tourism office, the Torch Relay wanted to make sure that people know those places are out there. Those are places they can go visit and learn and become more attached to their Indiana heritage.
I don't look at the Bicentennial as, let's just, wear mustaches and old costumes. I think of it as a time for saying, where have we come from? How do you know where you are if you don't know where you came from? And then where do we want to be today? Where are we today? What do we do well? What do we not do so well? that in mind, where do we want to be in the future?
So we're lucky to be Hoosiers and be here when all this is being celebrated and remembered this year.
2,245 torchbearers carried the flame across Indiana. Torchbearers came from all walks of life, representing the diverse heritage of our state. United in the journey, the torchbearers, young and old, represented the very best of their communities.
Anybody could nominate someone to carry the torch. The only real stipulation is you could not nominate yourself. So age really wasn't a factor. We did get some little children as well as a number of deceased individuals. Because this really was a celebration of 200 years, we didn't want to lose the opportunity for people to make sure that the historical figures or may recently have passed away get the opportunity to be recognized as a torchbearer if that was what was important to that community. The nominations were done statewide and were collected at the state level, but were then distributed at the county level, so they made the selections as to who they chose. And then people were reviewed and they put selection teams together at the county level and made the choices.
The torchbearers carried the uninterrupted flame with a series of 18 torches. Developed by Purdue University's School of Engineering, the torches represent the very finest in technology, construction, and connectivity.
We knew that we had to create a torch that was representative of Indiana's innovative capacity, the ingenuity of our people, and that really told the story of our state. So we looked to the flag of Indiana for inspiration.
That torch is magnificent. It symbolizes to me a unique use of all the high-techy stuff that engineers, and artists, and historians came together and put it in a symbolic but usable thing.
And we looked to the guidance of the expertise at Purdue School of Engineering to sort of lead the way.
The process was interesting. So about 2 years in the making, just general discussion between people that know each other, and then the state asking Purdue, are you interested in making this torch, designing the torch, and making quite a few of them? And right away we jumped on it.
The team at Purdue really pulled out all of the stops in their design of the torch. It stayed true in its exterior design to the Hadley torch that is on the Indiana state flag. But on the inside, the Purdue folks really went to work on incorporating elements that would enable the torch to stand out, to be distinctive, and to be the most advanced device of its kind.
The state asked us to design a torch that was inspired by the state flag. And that led us to this shape at the end. It took actually a lot of work to get everything that we wanted to have in the torch. The batteries right here, the brains, the electronics right here, the burner. It took a lot of work to get everything fitted in there. But yeah, the shape is absolutely inspired by the state flag, and it worked out really well.
It was a difficult challenge. We knew that we needed very specific features. We wanted the torch to take pictures. We wanted the torch to take video. We wanted the torch to have a safety system, and we wanted the torch to be able to connect remotely to the internet. There's limitations in what you can do in the amount of time that you're given, so we used a lot of pre-existing intellectual property to help us develop the torch as quickly as possible. So the camera inside the torch is actually just a standard web camera that we've modified heavily. The GPS sensor is one that you can buy online. We didn't develop that. However, we did build all of the circuitry around it, wrote the code to interface it. We designed all of the hardware that interfaced to all of these designs.
The reason these stars are hollow, the star that's right in front, right here, right aligned with the button, is where the camera is. So the torch is fitted with a camera, is fitted with a GPS, and with Wi-Fi. What that means is the torchbearers can take selfies, can take photos, can take videos, and we download those automatically on a server at Purdue, and then process that, and that gets put on social media.
So the outside shell is made from a lithium aluminum alloy that Alcoa actually ended up donating the shells to the torch team.
Just working with the students at Purdue, with the engineers and the professors, it was great to see that collaboration amongst those groups.
The torch relay was designated as a signature project by the Indiana Bicentennial Commission, an organizing body appointed in 2011 by then-Governor Mitch Daniels. His Lieutenant Governor, Becky Skillman, and former Congressman Lee Hamilton chaired the commission. The Commission was charged with developing a calendar of statewide celebrations and endorsing a range of legacy projects. More than 2,000 projects from across the state were ultimately endorsed.
So in the earliest of days, there was no lack of ideas for ways to commemorate 200 years of statehood. We had to be very focused and set our priorities early on and determine our signature projects.
I've gotten to go all over the state and see a lot of the legacy projects that are going on. We have over 2,000 legacy projects now. They're still coming in.
Another legacy kind of thing that's going to occur is we have these bison across the state through the United Way, and the counties have had the opportunity to decorate them, and so I'm sure those will be around for a while.
The Bicentennial experience was definitely a major undertaking, pulling together the collaborative efforts of a person with museum knowledge to be able to copyright and edit, make it look the way it was supposed to look.
Hopefully the most important thing that comes out of this is the people of Indiana, because of the Bicentennial, the focus on what was happening here in 1816 and afterwards, will have a much better appreciation of their state's history, the state's accomplishments, the people who made this state great, and the great people of this state who went on to do other things.
During Indiana's centennial celebration in 1916, the Indiana State Park System was born, and its legacy has been renewed in 2016 in the form of the Indiana Bicentennial Nature Trust. The Nature Trust was created to acquire and protect important conservation and recreation areas in Indiana. The torch relay route honored many of these newly preserved lands and a number of state parks during the 5.5-week journey.
Indiana's centennial, our 100th birthday in 1916, was a grand event. There were performances, plays all over the state.
The Centennial, of course, in 1916 was a little different than what we're doing today, as we've asked all the counties to participate somehow this year. Back then, the counties were asked to put on pageants, and they had beauty shows. And so the pageants would be like people marching through the streets and dressed in costume from the 1800s. Some state agencies were created, the Indiana Historic Bureau. Their role was to try and commemorate and mark historical significant things that are happening in Indiana. So there's some legacies out of that centennial as well.
There were also attention to long-term legacies, and the great one is, of course, our state park system.
The first state parks were created in 1916, and so that was a really fundamental decision by the state at that point.
The people in 1916 created a state park system that is truly the finest in the nation. It's a phenomenal state park system. We Hoosiers sometimes take it for granted. We never should. It's not just a place to go to hike or stay overnight. It's a place that reminds us of our natural environment. It reminds us of one of Indiana's most precious resources, our land, our air, our water.
Because of the connection between the state parks, which of course would be celebrating their centennial this year versus the state's bicentennial, and we also made a great effort at making sure that maybe as many as 10 state parks are on the route this year, Brown County and Turkey Run, and so it's a great way to connect those two things together.
My brother and his family and my wife and I will pick different state parks to meet. We're both kind of outdoorsy type folks, and so it's just a perfect opportunity, whether it's sledding or archery or zip lines. We truly do offer it all.
That is one of the great legacies of 1916. And I think it puts pressure on us in 2016 to remember that. And we've done some of that with the Bicentennial Nature Trust, which I think is a phenomenal example of the heritage of 1916.
State government contributed $20 million to the effort, and the Lilly Endowment contributed $10 million. We had $30 million available for land acquisition to allow so many communities to move forward with projects that would create new trails, parks, wetlands, forest lands. And now to date, we can celebrate more than 200 Bicentennial Nature Trust projects.
The torch relay, symbolic in nature, celebrated the state's bicentennial by connecting Hoosiers and their communities with the history and ambitions of Indiana.
So when you consider the fact that you can track the progress of the torch on its journey from anywhere in the world because of the GPS unit that's been installed in the torch, that both photographs and video can be captured through the camera that's part of the torch, that it has Indiana biofuel powering it, that the alloy for the exterior is something that is made in Indiana, and that those designs were machined here in Indiana. That really gives you a strong sense of pride in our state and the people that we have here. And the collaborative spirit that was used to build it is much like the collaborative spirit that was used to design the route that the torch has followed on its 3,200-mile journey.
So one of the great things about the torch relay is the opportunity for us to use that as a way to tie all 92 counties together and celebrate as an entire state, and let individual people from across the state, people who are being recognized for their contributions, to actually participate in the torch relay. Whether it's central Indiana or northwest Indiana, wherever it is, having all these people come together and remember what Indiana is all about. I suspect, if I had to guess, that 50 years and 100 years from now, they'll be doing this again.
Early on, we knew that we had to bring together a team of people that represented all facets of life in Indiana, as well as all corners of our great state. Chief in that effort was the Indiana Department of Transportation, because they had the technology that enabled us to link roadway to roadway. So we knew virtually where the torch would be going. But the insight provided by the Indiana State Police and their representation on this committee that we established, the Department of Natural Resources, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, the State Archives, who contributed thought leadership to the effort, really speaks to how people from Indiana came together to define the torch relay route. You know, one of the early ambitions that we had was that neighborhood barriers would be broken down and community barriers would be broken down, county rivalries would go away, and that this sense of one Indiana would be established. If I have one great reward from this, it is that communities are expressing that sense of Indiana pride that I've always known is there. And people who aren't as likely to be recognized for the important contribution that they make to the well-being of their community and into the broader state are getting their due. They're being acknowledged for making Indiana a great place to grow, to live, and to thrive in. And it makes me very proud to visit those places and to see the impact of something that, as symbolic as the torch, the impact that that has on their lives and perspective on our state.
Well, I think the torch relay has affected me like so many other people. Everyone likes to share what they're experiencing, and I can't tell you how many people have texted me or emailed me pictures, not just of them carrying the torch, but of the torch going through their county. To see the emotion on people's faces participating in this is truly inspiring, and it just encourages me of all the good that's going to be coming out of this, how it brings communities together to showcase their achievements and their futures.
Numerous groups, universities, and state organizations collaborated with business partners to make the relay happen.
The torch relay itself could not have come to fruition without significant help from other organizations. So to pull off an event of this size definitely required the collaboration of many different groups. It took the Indiana Department of Transportation and the Office of Community and Rural Affairs and the Department of Natural Resources and the State Police, as well as many others, to come up with a way to make this happen. Once we got on the road, there were three really sort of significant groups that came to be, one of which was the Indiana State Police. The event itself wouldn't have happened without their services and being able to get where we needed to go at the pace that we needed to, but also to stay on time, and then to keep us all safe. The second group that really played a big critical role was our operations team, which was made up of a number of different organizations. The Indiana Office of Tourism staff assisting, in my case, with leadership and decision making and making sure that we were doing what we had set out to do. We had support from an organization called Mary Beth Smith and Associates, who provided us with a couple of staff people to really give us more arms and legs and that have the expertise in event management and planning. We had intern support from IUPUI. Their service and ability to be there with us and help us throughout the route was critical, again, in having more people, arms, legs, people to help drive and really just keep things moving along while they got to learn. In addition to them was our team from Purdue. faculty and staff members that helped the torches stay lit and keep things moving and equipment running. And it really was a huge undertaking, and something when you're doing it every day, over and over and over again, you gotta stay on your toes and you gotta have the right people in place, and we really did. And then the third group was our media team, which consisted of folks from our tourism office, the Lieutenant Governor's office, and then the students and faculty from Ball State. And to be able to put out the amount of information that we did on a daily basis, whether it was through video or photographs or social media, was tremendous. Those three groups kept this thing moving. We had about 17 people with us on a daily basis, switching in and out while we were on the road, and to keep all that organized, it was a tremendous effort, and I can't thank any of those groups enough for their participation. We had a number of organizations outside of our core group that really just provide some critical support to the event. Indiana State Police worked directly with the National Weather Service while we were on the road. They provided us a twice daily report on the weather, as well as reports as needed. The state police were in communication with their command center here in Indianapolis, who then worked with the National Weather Service if we had inclement weather, which we did at times. Subaru, as well as a few other organizations like Alcoa, also provided significant support to the event in their own way. Subaru loaned us 10 Subaru Outbacks to allow our staff and the caravan group to be transported throughout the event.
The torch concluded its journey in Indianapolis during a grand Hoosier Homecoming celebration on Saturday, October 15th. The Hoosier Homecoming marked the conclusion of the relay and the official opening of Bicentennial Plaza, a new permanent site commemorating Indiana's 200th birthday.
For Becky Skillman and me, it has been a high privilege and a great pleasure to work with some of the most dedicated and talented citizens of our state.
The event at the end, the Hoosier Homecoming, was a lot of months in planning as well. An event like that, of that size, doesn't come together in a day. It was also a collaborative effort between the Bicentennial Commission and taking an event they wanted to see happen for all Hoosiers and something, community-based that anybody could come to. But also for us, focusing on the torch relay ending and making sure that we had sort of a big to-do to make sure that we brought this thing home with the right amount of fanfare. And we had a lot of torchbearers and county coordinators that made the trip to Indy to be able to see the torch relay finish. And I think it was fun for them to be able to have that closure as well. What we wanted to do was use it as a way to pull the torch relay to an end as the plaza was opened and dedicated in finale to the whole thing, to light the sculpture, which at night takes a whole different view than it does during the day. But the plaza is really set up as a way for people to continue to engage about the Bicentennial, about Indiana as a whole, especially looking forward.
I want to be there and see the new sculptures that will be there in that Bicentennial Park. I think that's a wonderful reminder that we're part of a long-term system of people and progress, and that we're doing our part today. We have that responsibility and opportunity that in the future, people are sitting talking to folks like you about where we are at the Tricentennial.
Symbolically, the torch was designed to pass a flame, an everlasting light for Indiana, from the past to the future. As the torch was carried through all 92 Indiana counties, the flame was passed unbroken, from Corydon to Indianapolis, connecting neighborhoods, communities, and generations of Hoosiers.
The effect that the relay is having is it's bringing home the real inspiration, not just of our past, but of what our future can be. It's so encouraging to see one generation hand the torch to the next, to know that we are the true authors of our next chapter. And we've long been trailblazers, that's well documented, but we're writing the next chapter right now.
We really wanted this to be about our youth, and we wanted it to be about showing, Indiana is great, but we can be even greater. So not only looking back at our history and celebrating all the wonderful Hoosiers in this state and all of the wonderful, amazing accomplishments, but then to kind of challenge our youth and say, okay, now we're passing the torch to you. Let's carry this on.
The generational piece of this was very important. As counties were putting together their plans, they were given a route as they were putting in the pieces of who the people were and which legs of the relay they were going to be covering within their county. We did emphasize a little bit of, it would be really neat to see an older person, if you have a younger person, sharing the torch, because we took pictures of all of that. So to be able to capture those moments of those people together was really neat.
This notion of passing the torch has a lot of symbolism born into it as well. So as we think about the legacy for Indiana and how we want to pass on all those great achievements for our state to our next generation, so they never forget, and so that they continue doing the good work that the Hoosiers who preceded them did, all of that went into this idea of a torch relay and why the torch itself is such an important symbol to Indiana.
And the torch relay is so unique that when I'm with my cohorts, other lieutenant governors around the country, I'm quick to share all the unique things that we are able to pull off because of the people of our state. When you get thousands of people volunteering at a torch relay that's going to go 3,200 miles through 92 counties, to be able to organize and pull that off flawlessly and inspire people along the way, I'm gonna be answering a lot of people's questions all over the country, and I'm proud to do it.
As Hoosiers look to the future of Indiana, we hope the torch relay serves as a reminder that Indiana's legacy is everlasting when all of us, neighborhoods, communities, and generations, work together toward a brighter future.
I hope that those generations that follow us place as much value as we have on engaging all 92 of Indiana's counties and as many Hoosiers as can possibly be touched.
It really highlighted Indiana as a whole. It pulled out these folks that may or may not have done anything to celebrate the Bicentennial, and they went to their community event or they came out and supported a friend. Everybody is sort of intertwined and interconnected to it in some way. It allowed people to find a reason to celebrate the Bicentennial. And if that's the most minimal thing that folks take away from this, then we've accomplished something.
I think that folks around the world, certainly around the country, are starting to take note of what's going on in Indiana. I certainly get asked about it. I get asked, how are you doing this and how are you doing that?
This isn't about our state, it's about Indiana's place on the globe, and it's an important place. The far-reaching impact of our state is truly the greatest beneficiary of the torch relay.
The reaction from Hoosiers, whether they were torchbearers or they were standing along the sidelines watching the display, has been fantastic. What a positive way to uplift and uphold the state of Indiana.
I think the inspiring thing about the torch relay has been the fact that it's kind of encompasses all the good things about Indiana. If you really just look at every day that the torch has gone, you really get a good feel for what Hoosiers are all about and what Indiana is all about.
Our Hoosier brethren and sistren, and they know that they've made a meaningful contribution to Indiana's well-being. And I think our days looking ahead are even brighter than the ones that have gotten us here today. So I hope during the celebration of our tricentennial in 2116 that they're doing something equally as compelling and equally as engaging as what we've been able to do here.
So you carry a torch all through there, well-meaning people having fun, doing something they haven't done before. That uniting just in spirit implants an attitude about I am a Hoosier, whatever the word might mean to you. I am a Hoosier. This is my team.
Indiana's future rests on the shoulders of those being educated right now. We asked young Hoosiers what they wanted to be in the future and what they will one day contribute to Indiana.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
I want to be a paleontologist.
I want to be a superstar MLB player.
I want to be a clothes designer.
I want to be an orthodontist.
An aeronautical engineer.
I want to be a teacher when I grow up.
I want to be an artist.
Well, I don't really know what I want to be when I grow up, but maybe an engineer or a stunt biker or something like that.
I want to be an author when I grow up. I want to be a vet when I grow up. When I grow up, I want to be an equine veterinarian.
I want to be an artist.
A doctor and an inventor.
When I grow up, I want to be an engineer.
When I grow up, I want to be a lawyer.
I want to be an actor.
I really want to be a hockey player when I grow up.
I don't know if I want to be an author, a scientist, an electrician.
I want to be an artist.
I want to be a professional soccer player.
When I grow up, I either want to illustrate books and write them, or I want to program things for computers.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana.
Happy birthday, Indiana. Happy birthday, Indiana.